What? Rowan's getting married? It was a sudden announcement. The talk of the town is that our step-grandchild is getting hitched. But the real shocker was what my son and his wife said next. From now on, we want to live just as a family. So, the maid we no longer need, you can leave. Ha ha ha. They probably think I'm floored by this. At last, 15 years of living together was worth it, I sighed. Just then, someone appeared behind me. My name is Charlotte, a 57-year-old housewife. I married my husband Anthony 37 years ago when I was 20. Back then, I just started working after graduating from beauty school. But life had other plans. I got pregnant. So we got married. I had wanted to work longer and didn't expect to marry so soon. I sometimes wondered how this happened. I had my doubts, but Anthony promised, "I will make sure you and our child are happy." Believing him, I committed to spend my life with him. And Anthony kept his promise. He always took great care of me. He was attentive during my pregnancy and even took the lead in household chores. Then, I gave birth to our first son, John. Anthony was wonderful with him too. "John, let's go play catch." Yay! We could often go to the park on weekends. I would tag along and watch them play, feeling content. Anthony worked hard during the week and made family time on weekends. So, when John was young, I didn't need to work. When he started elementary school, I began working part-time. I contributed the money to his future tuition and our savings. We lived comfortably without financial worries. John grew quickly and advanced through middle and high school. From the outside, we were a picture-perfect family. And I felt very happy. But every family has its worries. John was generally a good kid, but easily influenced by others. He would pick up behaviors from his classmates or girlfriends. In middle school, he had some mischievous friends and would sometimes misbehave. Anthony and I would scold him, but he never took it seriously. Fortunately, things changed in 9th grade. His new circle was more studious. He passed the exams for a public high school. It wasn't the best school, but definitely better than a rowdy private school. For better or worse, he's impressionable, so I wished for him to be around hard-working peers. At first, he did well in school, but by the time he hit 11th grade, his grades took a nosedive. Even when confronted, John didn't have much to say. He just wasn't motivated, it seemed. I had offered John tutoring or extra classes when I noticed he was struggling at school. "I don't need that," he vehemently declared. But his grades kept on plummeting. One day, I caught him walking hand in hand with a girl. That's when it clicked. His grades were falling because he had a girlfriend and was preoccupied with her. I was at my wit's end. Talking about love and relationships with a teenage boy, good luck getting through to him. If he finds out I saw them, he'll probably be mortified. And he might even take it out on me, making his grades worse. I decided to confide in Anthony. Anthony said, "Let me have a chat with him." After dinner, Anthony went to John's room and they started talking. Anxiously, I did the dishes and waited for Anthony to come back. About 30 minutes later, Anthony returned to the living room. I had a good talk with him. Just like you said, he got carried away with his new girlfriend. They were on long phone calls and texting even during exams. I reminded him that studies should come first, and he agreed to refocus. Anthony updated me. "Thank you." I sighed with relief, grateful for Anthony's steady parenting. If I had confronted John, it probably would have ended in an argument. From then on, John's grades gradually improved, reaching an average level. Soon enough, he was in his senior year of high school and became a college applicant. His grades weren't stellar, but there were colleges within his reach. He applied to those with higher chances of acceptance and got in successfully. Finally, I breathed a sigh of relief that we had managed to get him into college. With John becoming more independent, Anthony and I had more time to go on coffee dates and little trips, just like the early days of our marriage. I felt like we were dating again, or just newlyweds. Right after we got married, we rushed off on trips, thinking I'd soon be pregnant. That's why I wanted to go on a leisurely trip with my husband, just the two of us. As we spent quality time together, I couldn't help but notice how different our conversations are now. When we were dating, it was all about Anthony's work or my school life. Now, it's mostly about our son. Couples who've been through parenting end up talking about their kids, no matter how old they get. We got married quickly after I became pregnant, so we were still quite young. I was just about in my 30s, and Anthony was in his early 40s. That's why we could travel to many places. Then time flew, and John graduated college and started working. Just when we thought our parenting days were over, John dropped a bombshell. I've decided to get married. Anthony and I couldn't believe our ears. He just started working and he's already getting married? John's only been employed for about 6 months. That's way too soon. We were worried as parents, but then we realized we got married even earlier than he did. But Anthony was 25 and had been working for 3 years. So we still thought John was rushing things. Did she get pregnant or something? Is that why you're hurrying? Since we got married due to a pregnancy, we asked him that. But it turns out that's not the case. No, I genuinely want to marry her, John confidently said. Anthony and I felt relieved. It seems like John is truly in love, and that's comforting. He's passionate and employed, so that's a good start. A few days later, we meet John's fiancée. But Anthony and I are in for another surprise. Hi, I'm Haley. Next to John's fiancée is a child, roughly between 3rd and 6th grade. Our attention shifts entirely to the boy. Who's this young man? It can't possibly be John's child. So that means... This is Rowan, my stepchild. Stepchild? Turns out the boy is Haley's child from her previous marriage. We were stunned because we had no idea that there was a stepchild involved. I'm sorry, I haven't told my parents about the child yet. Ah, I see. Seeing our reaction, Haley also seemed puzzled. We can't stay silent forever, so I cautiously start to ask questions. So, where did you two meet? We met at work. Haley was a secretary at the company where I got my job. I see. How old are you, Haley? And how old is Rowan? I'm 30 and Rowan is 10. I see. So, she had her child when she was around 20, just like me. I hate to ask, but why did you divorce your previous husband? He cheated on me. I see. Mom, Dad, you're firing questions too fast. Sorry about that. We were a bit overwhelmed with all the new information, but John seemed committed to marriage and taking care of the child, so we gave our blessing. And so John and Haley got married. They've been living happily ever after with Rowan. There are concerns, but it's good to see John leading a happy married life. But then, about 6 months later, another issue arises. Anthony suddenly falls ill. This leads to a situation where he needs constant care. From that point on, I started taking care of Anthony at our home. Though we have ample savings, managing household chores and caregiving alone was tough. Still, I want to properly care for the man I committed my life to. That's what I was thinking when my son and his wife came to visit. Mom, isn't it hard to take care of Dad alone? How about we move in? What? Turns out they were suggesting that we all live together. I was thrilled when my son and daughter-in-law suggested that we live together, so we quickly moved in with each other. Although not related by blood, I was happy to spend more time with my step-grandchild. I hadn't met Rowan, our step-grandchild, more than a few times, but he always greeted me with a smile. He wasn't very talkative, but somehow we clicked. So I never minded spending time alone with Rowan. In fact, I found it therapeutic. We would naturally talk about Anthony, or I'd ask about school, and the conversations were always enjoyable. Life with my son's family was very fulfilling when I was spending time with Rowan. However, to be honest, the rest of it was not very enjoyable. Mom, didn't I ask you to wash my shirt? Well, I have caregiving duties. Please ask Haley to do the laundry. What? You're dumping chores on me? Isn't that harassment? Haley, you're busy with childcare. It's a job for Mom. My son and daughter-in-law had been bossy and demanding. Haley never did any housework and claimed to be busy with childcare, but it seemed like she wasn't doing anything from my point of view. John never took Rowan out anywhere and was always loafing around on his days off. And when they did prepare to go out, they left Rowan in my care and took off by themselves. Why do I have to make all these concessions? In the end, my responsibilities increased from housework to caregiving to childcare. Amidst this, sadly, Anthony's health deteriorated and he passed away. I was devastated. Anthony, despite requiring care, could still converse, and talking to him had been my stress reliever. With my long-term partner gone, it felt like there was a gaping hole in my heart. But it was my son and daughter-in-law who pulled me back to reality, although not in a good way. How much is Dad's inheritance? How much will we get? John said this right after the funeral was over. I was speechless, hearing John speak like he wasn't saddened by his father's death. I don't know. No, you need to find out. I want my fair share. Was John always like this? No, this must be Haley's influence. I realized since we moved in, Haley had no manners and seemed to only care about herself. It's like everything else doesn't matter and there's no need for consideration. And John was probably influenced by her lack of consideration for others. Fine, we had a lawyer. He should be holding the will. After explaining this to John, I collapsed on the sofa, drained. Grandma, are you okay? The one who asked this was Rowan. Yes, I'm okay, thank you. Grandma and Grandpa were always kind to me. Now I will grow strong to protect Grandma. Rowan. Moved, I stroked Rowan's head. Even without blood relations, bonds can deepen. That was exactly my relationship with Rowan. If Rowan could say such kind words, why couldn't John? Later, when the lawyer brought the will, my son and his wife complained about it. Isn't it unfair that Mom gets more? We are the ones who needed more financially. Look, it's what's written in the will. I don't care about that. So, Charlotte, you'd ignore us even if we're struggling financially? Well, if it comes to that, Rowan will just have to start working as soon as he finishes middle school. What? You'd make him drop out? If there's no inheritance, life will get tough. We won't be able to afford tuition, so Rowan would have to drop out and work. That's just... My son and his wife tried to exploit my close relationship with Rowan, becoming more confrontational and instilling fear in me. Fine, we can split it in half then, okay? Why didn't you say that in the first place? They agreed with a snide smile as I proposed this. From that point on, they kept threatening to make Rowan drop out, intimidating me. I felt compelled to comply with their demands, losing my spirit to resist and becoming submissive. Time flew, and before I knew it, Rowan had graduated college and was of working age. Has it really been over 10 years since we first met? Though I was filled with emotion, the hardship continued. My son and his wife continued to squat in my house even after Rowan became independent. Moreover, John quit his job and spent all day at home with Haley. I no longer had the energy to evict them, so just hoping for a peaceful day. I spent my days thinking that way. Then, 3 years later, it happened. Rowan is getting married? It was sudden news. It turns out that Rowan is getting married. And to my surprise, my son and his wife said, "Now we'll live on our own, so you're not needed anymore, housemaid. Please leave." What? They smirked, probably thinking I'd be shocked. But I couldn't contain my joy. Finally, 15 years of putting up with you both was worth it. My liberation day has come. What? What are you talking about? Confused, they didn't react as I expected. Just then, someone appeared behind me. "Grandma, I'm home. Welcome back, Rowan." "Rowan? Why are you back?" "You didn't say you'd be back today." I told Grandma. I was going to surprise you all about getting married, but looks like Mom and Dad spilled the beans. Rowan said this, and they smirked again. "Ah, so you were also looking forward to kicking Grandma out of this house?" "What? No, this house doesn't belong to anyone anymore." "What?" My son and his wife were shocked at Rowan's words. "What do you mean?" "Grandma already sold the house." "What the heck? Why would you do something like this?" John was fuming. His face beet red. "This house is in my name. I inherited it, so I have every right to sell it." "What are we supposed to do now? Where will we live?" "Yeah, we were planning on living here with Rowan and his wife as a family of 4. John and daughter-in-law were equally furious. But Rowan responded calmly. "Actually, that was a lie." "What?" "I'm planning on living somewhere else with my wife and Grandma. I came here today to pick her up." "Wait a minute. Rowan, why are you taking this old woman with you? She's not even related by blood." "That doesn't matter. To me, Grandma is more family than my biological mom or stepdad ever were. I can't stand how you guys have always treated her. I lied about living together to throw you off guard. You would have treated my wife like a housekeeper, wouldn't you?" John and daughter-in-law looked shaken. "I can't expose my wife to people like you." "Are you abandoning your parents?" "I don't remember raising a child like you." "I don't remember being raised by you guys either. Leave the house before the cops get involved." "I can't believe this." John and daughter-in-law were in despair, their faces turning pale. And understandably so. The young couple, my son and his wife, were always buying designer goods and gallivanting around, even though neither worked. The money came from the inheritance they split with me. But money isn't endless, and they were close to depleting their share. They must felt lucky when Rowan decided to move in with them. Well, their luck ran out pretty fast. As they stood there with pale faces, I packed my bags with Rowan and left the house. After that, they were evicted and now supposedly live in an old apartment. They continue to spend recklessly, accumulating debt. Despite working multiple part-time jobs, they can't escape their mountain of debt due to their spending habits. On the other hand, I've moved into a spacious apartment where Rowan lives. Then Rowan got married, and now the three of us live together. Rowan's wife is such a wonderful person. I took to her immediately. Having trained as a beautician, I sometimes cut and style their hair. Everyone at work always compliments me on the styles you do, grandma-in-law. Rowan's wife is always delighted to report this. Now, every day is joyous as we gather around the dinner table, and I couldn't be happier.